Good evening, guys, and welcome to our Friday Talks. Today is another Friday, and we are glad to have you all. And today we are going to be talking about a topic which is affecting us currently as a big issue in our nation here in Kenya. But generally, we'll be talking at it from both perspective of what it is and also looking at even what we are being affected on, whether young or old, but most likely we'll be focusing more on the young people. So without further ado, I want to introduce the panelists. One of my panel who will be here is Lorraine Wangari. She's a mental health advocate and also psychologist who will be practically helping us to dissect or to go through this issue of mental health awareness, which we'll be talking about today. So without further ado, I'll just hand it over to her. She can say hi first and then we can get into it. Lorraine.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. So my name is Lorraine Wangari. I am a mental health advocate and a psychologist. Yeah, and I am glad to be here. Get back to you, Timothy.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we will start with a question I'm sure everyone is going through this. I think we'll start by asking, what is mental health, Ronley? What is mental health?
Okay, first, in order to understand what mental health is, we need to understand the meaning of health. Yeah. From the WHO perspective, health is a is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Which now, with that definition, we can define mental health as the state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own capabilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life. That's the basic definition of mental health.
Okay, that is great. So if I was to a young person who was watching this, how will you define it in just if you break it down to one sentence? What is mental health? For any young person who's watching, anaona hiyo lugha ni refu, anataka kujua sasa in simple language tu kiniweke kwa sentence moja, what does hiyo mental health inamaanisha nini?
Okay, if we were to break it down further, we would say that basically in our normal day-to-day life, we experience different stresses. We have different experiences in our life. Being able to cope with those stresses and experiences, whether is a sign of good mental. Yeah.
All right,
So I
so
believe Timothy will be back in a moment. Yeah. Hello.
I'm not away from the state of health. I'm in good health. I'm in good health. I am here. Sorry, my connection is on, which is playing around with me. So I'm trying to make sure I'm praying that it will not affect us a lot. So if we go to the next area, which maybe we will talk about it in length, what are those signs you can say are things which people can see and wonder whether it's a mental health issue or not? Or please also demystify us what the issue of mental illness and mental health, whether they're two different things, and then we can go to what are those things we can start looking at, we can be affected to know, oh, these are signs of mental health.
Okay, sure. There's a difference between mental health and mental illness. It's just simply put, it's the difference between health and illness. So if you say I'm healthy, you're talking about you could be talking about your mental health or your physical health. If you say I am ill, you could be talking about mental illness or any other type of illness. Yeah, that's basically where the main difference illness comes. And if you were to define mental illness, is often, which are constantly referred to as mental disorders, they are they are conditions that affect the way a person thinks, feels, or behaves. Because mental health is about the mind, and your mind regulates how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. And yeah, your mind regulates how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. So your thoughts influence your behavior, and your thoughts also influence how you feel. So, what are the signs of a mental illness? So, to put it, one sign of a mental illness could be you're feeling sad or down consistently. It's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel down, but if it happens consistently, that could be a sign of a mental illness. Extreme mood changes in highs and in the lows. Um, when and mostly these extreme mood changes are without specific triggers. Sometimes they could have triggers, but most of the time they 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 could just possibly be coming even without a trigger. Sometimes the trigger could be the weather, it could be a news you've had, but sometimes the extreme mood changes could happen without a specific trigger. Change of appetite is a sign. It could be increased appetite or a lack of appetite. Normally, when it comes to mental illness, there's a high or a low, but not both of them, but they oscillate in between. So, one of the changes could be change in appetite, either a lack of appetite or an increase in appetite. There's change in sleep patterns, which could be insomnia or hypersomnia. And to define the two, insomnia is a lack of sleep, and hypersomnia is too much sleep. Withdrawal from friends and activities is also another sign. Significant tiredness and low energy. And in extreme cases, we have problems with alcohol and drug use. Those are the major signs of mental illness. Yes.
Mm, okay. So if the way you're saying it's either a high or a low, or it
Mhm.
oscillates between the two,
Yeah.
what are the triggers that will be able to help somebody if I was to look at a friend or a family member, uh, being that the highs and low can be dependent on the person, what are the things I need to also be sensitive on so that I can know they're going towards that area?
Okay. Normally, for mental illness, you will constantly, anytime you sense that someone is experiencing issues to do with mental illness or mental health, that they are mentally unhealthy, most of the time they don't show one sign. It's the signs come collectively. You'll see them collectively over a certain period of time. And most of the time we talk about 2 weeks. So you'll see the low appetite being accompanied by insomnia. In that there is with it comes withdrawal from activities and from family and friends. With it comes a lack of with it comes a feeling sad or down. With it comes their excessive fears and worries or extreme mood changes. Um, in extreme cases, being accompanied by alcohol and drug use, bigger extreme cases, suicidal thoughts and self-harm. So when you see a package, when you see sort of like the signs are coming in close succession to one another over a period of time, 2 weeks, minimum 2 weeks, maximum 6 months, or even more, then you would notice there's a problem there. There, then you can be able to try and seek help for that person, or to try and get them to seek help. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Lorraine. So if we continue further, maybe I can take it up to before we go to our feeds and see whether there are any questions to answer. Now, being that you've already explained what is mental health and the signs of mental health, and also comparing what mental illness and mental health is, maybe you can go to the part of, because you've already touched on this, maybe I'm going to repeat myself, and maybe to just clarify more. Um, what do we say if you were to define healthy mental health versus, okay, am I repeating myself? Healthy mental health, good mental health, good mental health versus what you're talking about, the having a bad mental health in a negative way. So how do we define the two? How do you separate the two? Some people can be saying, I've been having what you're saying, those high lows, and been affecting me, and I'm okay. So how do you define what is good mental health? Or is there something, is it self-defined, or there's a panacea or a general way of ranking it and say this is good mental health?
Okay. Your question maybe would be poor mental health versus good mental health.
Good,
Because
yes.
mental illness is a different story altogether. Mental illness is now where you talk about cases of depression, anxiety disorders, bipolar, trauma related disorders, and all those many disorders that are listed in our manual as psychologists. Um, but there's good mental health and there's poor mental health, which means that you could possibly not have a mental illness, but you have poor mental health. And that means that the, the, there are signs to show that you have good mental health. Good mental health is shown by experiencing positive emotions. Positive emotions include things such as joy, love, compassion, kindness, happiness, serenity, contentment, hope, and such like things. And then there's negative emotions, which could be a sign of poor mental health, whereby there's sadness, anger, disgust, jealousy, hatred, selfishness, bitterness, emptiness, and all that. However, just to make a clarification there, and experiencing negative emotions is not necessarily an indicator of poor mental health. However, if you experience them constantly and you experience positive emotions less often, then that could be an indicator of poor mental health. We both we need to experience both positive emotions and negative emotions. But which ones do you feel more? Yeah. So if you constantly are angry, constantly are experiencing bitterness, emptiness, and helplessness, could be a sign that you have poor mental health, could be a sign that you need to reach out for help. So some signs of good mental health is you're confident when faced with new situations of people. You may experience some fear, but you may you may decide to conquer that fear. You feel optimistic. You don't blame yourself for the things that go wrong in your life. You have a good self-esteem. You set goals and you yearn to achieve them. But if you have poor mental health, then you can barely cope with normal stresses. You know, there are stresses at higher levels and there are stresses of day-to-day life. So there are those stresses that you experience at work. Maybe you have pressure to meet deadlines and such. If you can cope with such, then you are in good mental state. But if you can't cope with the normal stresses, then you are not in a good mental state. If you cannot work productively, or if you cannot um, serve your family efficiently or interact with your family efficiently, then that's a sign that you may have poor mental health. If you feel that if you're constantly blaming yourself, then that means you may not have good mental health. If you if you if you feel disinterested in setting goals or you feel that you don't look forward to life, that's a sign of poor mental health. So those are some of the indicators that you can look at and see if you need to seek help as soon as possible before things get worse. Yeah.
Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Lorraine. I can still not. I think people are really learning as we go on, which is nice. At least we, in case anybody has questions, we'll continue to deal with them as we continue. So let's get now to the part of actually looking for, as I say, solutions or way forwards. And if you were to reduce it, and I will give this open to you, just take us through. You can use examples, and you can also use ways of how do we need to look at issues of mental health, and how does it to have not to have poor mental health, but as you said, poor and sorry, this poor, I forgot the other word, good mental health. So how do we, if way forward, how those are the things which we can start engaging now to actually look at how to get good mental health. And what are those way forwards or things we can talk about? You can share stories, you can actually go through. I'll give this platform for you. Just take us through the whole thing.
Okay, sure. Um, in order to achieve good mental health, there are steps you can take, or the things that you can put in place in order to achieve that. Number one, you can invest in meaningful relationships. Such relationships could act as a support system in trying times, whereby you can just call a friend, have a short video call, or just let out how you feel, and they can provide a listening ear to you so that you can be able to at least get some things out of your heart. As they say, uh, if you talk about your problem, it's like you've solved it half. So that is one. You can invest in meaningful relationships, good friendships that could build you, good support systems that could hold you during trying times. Like, for example, allow me to use this example whereby when one is grieving, it is important for them to have people around them to help them through that period, to constantly check on them, even after they've buried their loved one. Because most of the time, we might want to support people during that time just before they bury, we fundraise and everything. But it reaches a point where it's like they're alone. So if they invest in, if you can be there for someone during a time of grief, you can help them better cope with the situation. Another thing that works for a lot of people, one thing that I'd greatly recommend is that you develop an attitude of gratitude. Just keep a, you could possibly even keep a gratitude journal where at the end of each day, you just write one thing you're grateful for. And after you've done that, just observe what you feel inside of you. Because sometimes we are so focused on the negative that even the little things that we have, we don't even see. So if we can focus on just one thing that we are grateful for each and every day, we can observe how we feel and we'll notice that there's something in us that is motivated to be better and to do better. Um, Using your talents and hobbies could help you during your free time to unwind. Because even also being too tired or being too stressed up could lead to deeper mental health issues, could lead to development of mental illnesses. So use your talents and your hobbies. Just find something to do. Knowing where your gifts are or what you like doing is very important. And you could use that to ensure that you just let out some things. Exercise and eat healthy. Um, there has been research that has been going on that our physical health is directly linked to our mental health. There's broad research that is going on about this, that the state of our bodies affects how we feel inside of us. The foods we eat could possibly affect how we feel. And the way we feel about our very own bodies is important to our mental health. I could put it that way. Because if we feel that we need to lose some weight and we work towards it, we will feel more energized to keep going. And that And as we continue to feel energized, we'll continue to feel as if the good hormones are coming out. Um, get enough rest. Um, the recommended sleep is 6 to 8 hours. So each and every day, just take time to get your 6 hours of sleep, which helps to shed some tissues that were there, some dead skins, and to even replenish your energy. Rest is important because it allows you to recharge and to give room for you to do that which is important. Um, Giving to others, just make a contribution to the community. It doesn't have to be monetary. It could be your time. It could be other resources that are just lying idle in your house but could benefit someone. Um, Taking time to identify a cause you'd love to engage in. Like there are people who just love to serve in the church. There's some people who just love to help street children. There's some people who just love to give to children's home at least every once a month. Take time to do these things, and because pleasant events do lead to those positive emotions that we were talking about and could help in canceling out those negative emotions. Um, and for those of us who are spiritual or religious, you could get involved in your religious practices. Pray, read the Bible, fellowship with other believers, serve in the church, and all these things. For some people, it really works to helping in coping with stress and in reducing symptoms of mental illness. Um, and last but not least, try at least and seek help. If if it gets to a point where you feel you cannot be able to handle, just go and seek help. We constantly say in our mental health circles that seeking help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It is strength in acknowledging that you cannot be able to handle it on your own and that you need help. Yeah, it is not a sign of weakness, whether you're a man or a lady. You know, there is this stereotype that men cannot go for counseling, unafaa kujikaza. No, if it gets to worst and you feel you cannot handle it on your own, just seek help and see how you can be able to resolve the issue with a counselor or a psychologist. Yeah.
Thanks, Lorraine, for that elaborate breakdown in terms of all those areas. I think for me, I'll just start with the last area which you've talked about getting help. What are the simple steps that you can help anybody who's listening to us now? What are those simple steps that you can start in the point of asking for help? What are those simple steps that you can give some people who are listening maybe to us or might listen later? What are those simple steps that somebody can start taking for seeking help?
Okay. Simple steps in terms of
like actionable things which they can, if somebody's going through it and is already aware it's an issue for them, what are the simple channels or ways they can engage maybe the environment where they are in, whether it's, if I give an example, in a home, I have a brother or sister going through, or my child is going through, or somebody who's a child, sorry, or somebody who's in a family setup or in a friendship setup. Because what are those actionable small steps that you can encourage them to start with in the part of getting help or to seek help?
Okay, good question right there. The first step could probably be booking an appointment with a counselor. For most setups that we have, you book an appointment. They try as much as possible to work with the time you could probably avail yourself. They try to adjust their time so that it can fit into your schedule, or they try to work around their schedule to see if it can fit in yours. So if, for example, you're available at 4 p.m. on a Thursday evening, if they're free at that time, they could book you at that time or recommend you to a counselor who might see you at that time. Yeah. So for most cases, you book an appointment. It's not just walk-ins. Um, So you can encourage them to book an appointment with a counselor. It will help them to, it will give them something to wait for, and it will help them now sit down and begin solving their issue. Second step is they could use available lines that are there in the country. Um, for most counseling facilities, especially now during the COVID-19 period, they ask you to use their helpline if you just want someone to talk to. So like there's Befriend Us Kenya, they can search for them online. There's Befriend Us Kenya. They have a direct line which you can use. There is basic needs rights which you can search for them. They have a they have a line, but you call it at normal rates. It's sort of, they have a specific helpline which you call at normal rates. There is Niskize Counseling Center and many other places all around the country. Sometimes you may talk to them on the phone and they may recognize that you need more sessions. If they do, I do encourage people to take the next step and actually book that appointment and go for the other counseling sessions, because sometimes some issues are not resolved in one session. In fact, for most issues, it's not resolved in one session. Sometimes you just need someone to listen to. You've been having, maybe there are a lot of quarrels in your family. It's taking a toll on you. You just need someone to let out to. There's those counseling sessions. So that is good if they made a call. But there are those sessions that may be needed consistently, so that the counselor actually gives you, let me just call it homework, sort of like tasks to do when you're at home, so that you may take action steps to improve your own mental health. Because that's what counseling is supposed to do for you. It's supposed to help you develop skills to deal with the issue currently and even in future. So that if, assuming you are going there for a stress you couldn't handle, you if you come to me as a counselor, I need to give you skills so that you don't come again. So that the next time I see you, you're coming for a different issue. Or even the next time you're coming, the issue is more intense than this one. So the aim is not to give you counseling so that you keep coming back. The aim is to give you counseling for you to have the skills to be able to have good mental health. So yeah, I'd encourage someone. Counseling helps you to just develop those skills, to build what is known as resilience. Yeah, you know that resilience is an important part of having good mental health. It is when you can cope with unexpected changes and challenges in your life through drawing from your inner strength. Resilience is something that can be learned, and people who have resilience can manage stress better and are even less likely to develop the mental illnesses that exist, are less likely to develop depression, bipolar, among other things. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Lorraine, for that. So what I can also go further is to now, that one is for seeking help to the professions. Maybe for us to break it down now to the place where, like what I was sharing earlier, I have a brother or I have a sister in the house, and I can see there's some areas which are falling into an issue of mental health. What are the things they can do before we go to seek help to the professionals or the people who are aware to how to handle it? What can you tell for those? What can you help those people to know or to be aware of on how they can start handling the issue within their environment?
So, if I may recap your question, you're asking how you now, as Timothy, can help your brother before now taking him to counseling. Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, sure. First step is listening to them. And we say listen without interrupting, listen without trying to give solutions, listen without trying to. So 5 years ago, I had a similar experience, just listen, let them pour out. Then you would be able to draw certain things that could help them as individuals. You'd be able to know, I need to help them in 1, 2, 3 areas. Maybe I need to be more supportive or more keen in listening. Sometimes the only thing that you needed to do is to help them to speak, right? Sometimes the only thing you needed to do is to bring them out. And if that is what you needed to do, then just take time, listen to them, listen without interrupting, because listening without interrupting is very key to understanding an issue that someone is facing. Sometimes the issue may be beyond you, that you don't know how to deal with it. Now that's when you can take it for counseling. But if you find but if they but if sometimes they but if you just needed to listen to them, then you've helped them to solve their issue. Number two, the next thing that you can do um, is to ensure the other thing that you can do is to just help them do certain things. Sometimes you sometimes it's not really a lack of appetite. Sometimes it's just really that you need to help them. You need to serve their food, talk to them as they eat, and then you've probably helped them out, and they'll probably talk to you as, but just by doing that kind act for them. Sometimes it's you just need to talk to them slowly as to how they can stand up on their own 2 feet and do things for themselves. So, for example, maybe you may notice there's a pile of clothes, 2 months, someone of them washed their clothes and all, and you're thinking, there's a problem here. So, it's not that you wash the clothes for them, but if you would just help them slowly do it. Yeah, like for example, today they wash their white clothes, next time they wash their trousers, tomorrow they wash their shirts. These simple things of just helping them, just speaking to them to slowly do the simple things of life. Sometimes all they need to do is to take steps in doing the simple things of life. If you can motivate them to do the simple things of life, then even the greater things, they will be able to do it. All they need to do, we normally say take one day at a time. Taking one day at a time. If you have 200 clothes to wash, you don't necessarily have to wash the 200 clothes in one day. Separate them and wash them slowly by slowly, even if it's on a weekly basis. Just slowly by slowly until the point all the 200 have been washed. Right.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Lorraine, for sharing all that. As you've just looked at all those areas you've shared and exactly what actually beyond the professionals and the people, let me say the community around the person, what are the key things which they can do? I think maybe we can go further now to, if we were to dissect it to the situation which is happening within ourselves, within our context here in Kenya, especially for the young people, or let me say, young adults stroke mature adults. What are the things which you can share as maybe pointers which we need to know, whether not really, because now we're talking at it generally, let's take it down, to narrow it down now for the young people. What are the things you can share to the young people to start getting now? And for those who are mature adults, what are the things they can actually look forward to deal with this issue of mental health?
I don't think I got your question.
I think what I'm asking is, now we contextualize it to our setup here in Kenya. We have seen what is going around in our community. Let me use that word in different areas. So the key question is to now let's go down to specific segments of that area. What are the things which you, if you were to share to the youth about mental health, what are those issues that you can say it's important to share about?
Okay. I think normally when you're talking about mental health, it's good to understand what mental health is. you need to come from a point of helping them understand what mental health is, why it is important to have good mental health, and how to get to that point, how to achieve that good mental health, and how to take care of your mental health. Because it's a daily process. Even for us who may look healthy or who may be healthy, it is a daily process. Because every day we are faced with life challenges. Every day we have different situations to deal with. If we're able to deal with them efficiently, we will feel good. So it is important to understand, it is important to help them understand what mental health is, even at the very basic of what mental health may be. Just breaking it down that it is just coping with your stresses of life, the things you're facing, being able to work efficiently or to be productive in life. Just that as a basic definition, helping them understand how they can take care of their mental health. Because even at their own level, there's a way they can take care of their mental health. Um, if they, if they, if they're constantly, if they constantly sleep for 2 hours, like in this period where they're at home every time, you may find their lights on at 3 a.m. Then they sleep 3 to 6 maybe, so they're sleeping for 4 3 hours. It usually starts at that young stage. So just helping them understand that there are steps you need to take. There's a reason why 6 hours is recommended. There's a reason why even at a certain age it's better when it's 8 hours. Helping them understand that it's a daily process, that you will need to work on it daily, that you'll need to preserve your mind, even the things that you see. Sometimes, like for me, once in a while I do a social media detox, and it helps. Just getting out for social media for maybe, even just maybe a whole week. And if you can't do a whole week like me, 2 days maybe, and it will help you get rid of all the toxic messages that you're constantly receiving from social media, and understanding the importance of, in fact, getting off social media could help you to be alone as an individual, so that you get to understand your thoughts better, and you get to understand, you'll notice you have some more positive emotions during that period. Because in social media there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of outbursts, there's a lot of jealousy, all of these negative emotions that we're talking about. But we settle at a place where if we settle at a place where we know that we want to feel good, and we keep away from the negativity for some time, it could help us even by ourselves. So just helping them understand these things in a simple way, just breaking it down for them and helping them understand mental health is part of their life. It's just like helping them understand it's just like physical health. If you broke your arm, you'd have a cast around your arm. Um, if you broke your leg today, you'd be walking with a crutch. Um, if you, uh, if a if an abnormal if an abnormal bacteria was found in your body, you'd have to go through maybe an operation of certain sort. So they'd have to give you medicine to remove it. Same case, if we eat unhealthy, let me use this one. If we eat food is that is poisonous, our bodies will need to flush it out. Same case, there's some things we need to flush out of our minds for us to achieve good mental health. Yeah.
Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Lorraine. That's very informative in point of actually looking at it from the scenarios I think the examples you've used. I think I was in the aha moment of like, if we are actually being able to talk to them the same way we talk to them about physical health, it really helps to actually help them to be aware, which is what we're talking about today. What is the mental health awareness we need to create? The point of let's engage them to understand those things which you're mentioning. So maybe as we come to our conclusion or to an end of this talk, what are the things which you can say, maybe if I was to ask you, Lorraine, what are the things the top 2 or top 3 things which you can share to any youth worker here, or any any person who deals with young people and this issue of mental health comes up, or any person who's actually having a loved one at home and they're dealing with mental health, or a friend or a workmate, what are the two things which you can maybe encourage them, or you can actually just give a word of, or maybe say a word of just encouragement, or ways to see how they can be helped?
Okay. Um. I, okay. What I would. Okay. Mental health is a very crucial element, and um, I always tell people that where you reach, you have a certain strength in you. If you can draw it out, then you will be able to handle a lot of issues in your life. If you can't draw it out, get someone to help you draw it out. The seeking help we were talking about. But there's always that strength in you. Let it keep you going. Let it keep you going. Illness, like we said, mental illness is like physical illness. It's not just something you can snap out of, which means there are steps, even you as an individual, you need to take. As you get this strength every day, keep at it, keep at it. Just take one day at a time, one day at a time. If you have to take a baby step, do that. If you notice you can take a leap, do that. If you have to walk and walk slowly, go at your pace. Um, if you've reached a point where you can run, do it. But do it one day at a time. One day at a time. Yeah. Because taking one day at a time gives you peace. So there's a prayer when you go to a place where there are several inpatient several people with mental illness, and it's an inpatient facility, for example, a rehab, they make a prayer constantly, daily. They say, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So may you have the serenity to take one day at a time, um, one day at a time, to what you can do now and to the best at which you can do it. Yeah, that's my encouragement. Just take one day at a time and you'll get there.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you so much for that sharing. And we pray that even as whoever is, you're somebody who's dealing, you have a victim around you, whether, as I was sharing earlier, family, a workmate, a friend. So as we just had Lorena say, just take a day at a time, but also the part of the acceptance and prayer of what she's saying, to accept the serenity aspect. But also the biggest thing which have come out of this talk today is the point of creating models of how we can actually, for the young people, to teach them issues of mental health the same way we teach them any other thing in their lives, so that they can be aware as early as enough, so that when they reach a point of actually going through it, they can seek help. And maybe that is one of the factors that we are going through now, even as a nation, for every Kenyan who's watching me. And we need to be able to create those avenues so that they can be able to learn, and also to be able to reach out and seek for those help. So I want to end there, and it's awesome that we have ended with this topic. Thank you so much, Lorraine, for availing your time and being part of this session today. I'll give you the last 1 minute at the end as we close, but also for me, just to encourage those who have worked with us since the beginning of this month, as we had scheduled these talks. For those who have missed some of our talks, I'll really encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, which is Tanari Trust, the Tanari Trust, and also our Facebook. Also, our Facebook, you can follow us at Tanari Trust, and you'll be able to see these sessions. We have 4 sessions, so we started with gender-based violence, which is something which we're already capturing on the issue of mental health, but we went through a process of talking about YOLO, sexuality, and now today we are closing the month with Lorraine here talking about mental health, which she really has actually broken down very well for us to get into this space of getting aware about what mental health is. So, Lorraine, your last parting shots as you share, as we close the session for today.
Yeah. So Timothy, thank you for having me. It's really a good moment. It's a privilege to be able to talk about mental health in such a space. To everyone out there, just remember that mental health is health, and there is no health without mental health. You may be physically healthy, but without mental health, you're not fully healthy. So, yeah, so keep safe, take care, preserve the mind. It's a treasure. Yeah.
Awesome. As you've just heard, I'm not going to add anything on top of what Lorena said. May the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. And also, as Lorena said, I'll just repeat it as I finish, as I close this session for today. Mental health is health. So it cannot be dissected out of any other health. It's part of health. So may the Lord bless you. See you next time as we program, and look forward to seeing you next time. For those who we are coming to a close for this month, hopefully the next month you'll be seeing us very true to come and give you a new session of what we're going to be talking about. So may the Lord bless you. Keep up as Lorena said, keep yourself well, keep your mind safe, and keep that moment of rest and being self-aware about your mental health. God bless you all. See you and see you next time.